in a mass scale with thousands and thousands of people around the world in every country. So he's really spearheading a really unusual project, and we're super excited to have him talk about it tonight. He did his first project with the Global Harmonic Convergence last year. We had 200,000 people from around the world working to bring peaceful contact and curiosity and raising consciousness and asking for contact. So you can find Mark's work at marksims.com. If you want to learn about the harmonic convergence, that's the URL that you can look up. It's also there in the chat, and you can follow him on Instagram as well. He's going to be talking about his radio research. There's a great picture of him there. And just to let you know a little bit about me, my name is Zenka Caro, and I recently started at exometaverse.org. So we're a citizen science platform, and the idea is to collect shared wisdom about non-human intelligence and other dimensions. So there's this sense that we all have to come together to put together the pieces, to put together the information, and it's going to take each and every one of us. So we want the site to really help people have their first contact experience. So if you're on the call and you've had a contact experience, you are the leader of this movement. And we want to spread it to people who want to have that mind expanding experience. And we're studying how that happens and getting people excited about it, taking down the taboos and kind of bringing in the curiosity. We're looking at big trends in search engines, and we want to map our best resources. So every week on Monday, if you go to the website, exometaverse.org, you're going to find a question on the top. And this is a way that we can start to gather our collective intelligence. Last week, we talked about movies. They're so important because they affect our collective consciousness, our fears, or even our physical reality, right? And we realized, in our first poll that 77% of movies portray ETs in a negative way. So we have a lot of work to do, and we're going to kick off part of that effort tonight. So tonight's kind of agenda is that we're going to talk to Mark for half an hour. It's going to be amazing. He's going to tell us about his research, his future, his plans. Then we're going to go into breakout groups of 4 people, and you guys are going to get a chance to connect with each other, support each other, give each other support on making contact, or share a story that you have about a contact that you've made. And in the very last half an hour, we are going to be recording anybody who wants to step forward to talk about their first experience. So these are going to compile into a massive network documentary, decentralized with the hashtag #MyFirstContact. So we're inviting people. We think that this will really help the movement become contagious. So I know Leroy's on the call. He emailed us and said, you're missing one of the films, so we encourage you guys to just contact us. Let us know what films we missed or any suggestions that you might have. We're going to talk about this a little bit later in the program, but this, as I said, this week's about who we can talk to about our experiences and curiosity and advice that we have for other people. So we are going to be meeting, all of us, whoever wants to join, the second and fourth Friday of every month. So Mark is inaugurating this experience, this community hangout, and we're going to have another one on the 22nd. And it's actually the first Tuesdays are going to be broadcast for across a bunch of different networks starting next month. And the fourth Friday is going to be more private, just for members. So membership is $4 a month, and we're going to be talking next on the 22nd about plant medicine. So Paul Hynek is the son of one of the most famous UFO researchers in the world, and he's going to be talking about Project Blue Book. He's going to be talking about Avatar. He's going to be talking about his experiences. So there's a lot of different ways that we can make contact. We've been talking to people who do it through dreams and meditation. And Mark, of course, is our expert in CE5 and CE6. So, without further ado, Mark, I would love I'm going to go ahead and pin you here, and I would love for you to tell us about why you think it's important for us to make contact, and what you think that they think about our interest in doing this. Like, why is this important?
Well, in a nutshell, I think it's critically important for us to kind of recalibrate our worldview about who we are and our relationship to the cosmos. Um, we historically have come from a philosophical and religious perspective that makes human beings at the pinnacle of um, intelligent beings, and furthermore that we're the only intelligent beings, or the only intelligent beings in the universe, and that Earth is the sole planet or place in which life exists, and God created the universe for the sole purpose of um, creating the human being, and the world and nature is our dominion to be mastered and used uh, for our own purposes. And I think that type of thinking has got us into a very dangerous situation. And by realizing that we're not alone, by doing CE5, human initiated contact, or other modalities of contact, and seeing a ship for the first time suddenly does this. It wakes us up to know for sure that we're not alone. And not only are we not alone, but the right the journey to rapidly ascend our consciousness to a new perspective, through the inquisitive process of asking, who are they? What's the relationship to us? Are they good or bad? What's their motivation? What's their intention? And this, I think, can rapidly get us to a place that's much healthier, and can lead us on a path where we can learn for the first time that not only are we not alone in the universe, but we have a relationship to these beings. I believe that in part that these are literally members of our family, both literally and um, not, um, you know, I'm lacking the word, but
In our essence, yeah.
yeah, euphemistically, that these beings, according to my own contact experience and the knowledge I gained through my relationship with extraterrestrial, this ET named Tejbar, that they've had a hand in our evolution, both physically and consciously. And so, they view us as their children in a way, because of that relationship, the ongoing relationship of helping to manipulate the genetic code periodically through history to engineer us to what we are today, and to use their own DNA to sprinkle in with the DNA of the native human to help us evolve. And so that's what I believe, that these are really family members. And the reason that they've been so reclusive and aloof is because they would freak us out. We would either fear them and be scared to death of them, or we would look to them as gods and begin worshiping them. And I believe both of these extremes are actually things that have happened in human history. In Egypt, in ancient Egypt, I think that the evidence is very strong to suggest that that civilization was started or bootstrapped in part by extraterrestrials in the building of the Great Pyramid, and some of the technologies that were introduced to help establish major nations on this planet. And they've had a hand as well in crucial points in history, taking human beings to, a new level of understanding. So I think that we're continuing that process now, and we've reached a level of technical and philosophical sophistication on this planet as human beings collectively to realize that they are not gods, that they are using highly advanced technology and sciences, and that this extra dimensional or interdimensional aspect of contact and eyewitness accounts of these beings, suddenly being there and suddenly, they're not, they disappear, because they're higher or extra dimensional beings, and they're able to change radius. We do not have that option.
Yeah, Mark, we're having a bit of a hard time hearing you. Maybe, as much as I hate to say this, can you just take your video out and we'll see if that is going to help a little bit? We'll still be getting your message.
Yeah, he's frozen right
Yeah,
now.
I think so.
Okay. So yeah, just see if you can take out your video and we'll just have you as audio. Oh, I think he's going to log back in. So, so that's great. So, I have some more questions to ask him. If anybody has a question too, they can type it into the chat here, and we'll try to get those in. And we'll wait for him to log back on. We also have John Martin on the call, and we also have Sharon. And Sharon has been helping out with Exo Metaverse as we have launched in the last 3.5 weeks, and we're so grateful for her love and support in the project. John, who I'll introduce a little bit now while we're waiting for Mark to come back on, is an incredible contact savant. And he has been making contact for decades. And he has uploaded dozens and dozens and dozens of videos. And John, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit and talk about some of your experiences?
Thank you, Zinka. Hi, my name is John Martin. I'm a classically trained guitarist, and I've used music and positive thought and love to connect with the universe. And it was really just an experiment to see if it might actually work. I had dinner with President Carter. He's been a friend for many years, and we were in Toledo, Spain together, and he spoke about UFOs, and he was very open about it. And this was a number of years ago. So I used that and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, speaking of movies and ET. And they used music as a communication tool. So I thought I would try the same thing. And I went out on my deck with my guitar, and with the intent, just a clear idea of projecting this beautiful music that I've played my whole life. I've been playing guitar for over 50 years now. And I project that into the universe to see if there might be any kind of reaction. And literally after the second or third session, this beautiful purple dome-shaped plasma craft came about 50 feet above our home with a pink ring around the bottom third. It was completely silent. Karen came outside with me, and it was just the most magnificent thing. It was completely silent. It had a beautiful feminine energy to it. It was lovely. And a few days later, there were 4 of them that were spinning in place, 2 sets of 2 directly over my courtyard. And then after that, a few days later, a really huge cross shape and crescent shape metallic craft. They were the size of office buildings that came over my home. And went to grab my camera, and in my mind, they said, please don't take her picture. We'll give you something you can take a picture of. That was one of the clearest times I've ever actually heard an intelligence speak to me. And so I honored that, and I didn't run around the building like you would expect and take a picture. I was just kind of overcome by the experience. And about 10 days later, in that same spot where I first saw it, was a beautiful heart-shaped cloud. I'll pull a file up from my computer in a few minutes and put it in the chat if that's possible.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you to share a video. Or I see we have Mark back, and I also see we have Greg Heller on, who's also been working very hard behind the scenes to make some of the magic code that we want to happen on the site. And we're so appreciative for his love and big brains on the project. He's also a super expert on CE5 and has made some incredible things. So Mark, I see that you're back on. I'm going to put you here, and thank you, John, for sharing. And we'd love to see more of your videos.
Yeah, thank you, John. John, by the way, everyone, was one of the participants in the December 21st solstice Zoom meeting that I organized, and we held a CE6 meditation. He actually recorded ships above his home and sent us a recording of that. So I want to thank John for sharing that with us, and maybe at the end, if there's time, we can show everyone that video.
Totally. So Mark, we have a question from Tamara from MUFON, and she was really interested in learning about your research with radios and how you're using that to assist with contact.
Yeah, so I've been using two-way radios, and I moved inside. I had them out to show up. Let me grab one right now.
Yeah, grab it. I'll hold mine up here too.
And Zinka, you can attest to this, that these are low-cost two-way handheld radios. They're UHF, VHF radios. And a friend of mine, Jimmy Blanchett, has come up with a method that he discovered for broadcasting a message, for initiating contact and then getting a response. And the nature of the response is that you have to have, to really see the wonderful, unusual aspect of this communication, you have to have at least two radios. So you broadcast on one radio the message, while both radios are on the same network, or on the same frequency rather. And only the radio that you initiate the contact or the message on gets a response. Wow. And I've done this maybe 100 times now. And it's repeatable. I've introduced many other of my friends and colleagues to this to try to validate it, including Zinka. And so she can attest to the fact that this works. And what I believe is that the radio is a great tool, not only for initiating contact, but for kind of hooking people into a relationship with that intelligence that's communicating through the radio back to you. And many of the people that have begun doing this enjoy doing it on their spare time and leaving the radio on and getting this odd communication happening. Zinka, can you share your own experience doing that?
Yeah, so Mark introduced me to this, and we turned it on, and there's two radios in the exact same frequency, but they're making different noises. And I'm thinking, how is this possible? And then as we worked with it, you start to hear their personalities, because sometimes they're like they really want to talk. They're like, no, 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 no. Sometimes they're like, sometimes they're tick, tick, tick. And we even think that they just make a chirp for yes. So I'll be working, I might be having a conversation or just working, and I'm thinking, should I do this way? So I said, this is like having dogs, Mark. It's like, I can't get anything done, man. These guys keep talking to me. So it's been fascinating to have them interact with us in this way, and we look forward. I mean, you can tell them we're look forward to getting more and more detailed information through this spectral review. You can tell them a little bit about that, how we're taking sounds or pictures and compressing that into sound, sending it and asking them for a response. So we feel like this could be the beginning of a much more nuanced, much more concrete way to talk back and forth.
Yeah, I think the first thing for people to understand is that we're taking an image that has a message in the form of text and pictures, and we're converting that into an audio file with a special program that does this called Photo Sounder. And so you get about a 30 to 45-second audio file that you then broadcast over one of the radios. And what I'll do right now is demonstrate, and I've got a video here that I'll share with everyone. And I just need to see how I can share the screen real quick. So
are you able to, Mark?
Yeah, I'm able to do
beautiful.
that.
Thank
so
you.
Everybody should be able to see that, right?
Yeah.
And so this is a spectrogram. So that is the actual spectrogram of the audio file that was created with the Photo Sounder program. And once you play that on the radio, you play that on one of the radios, and then you leave it set up. Got a phone call in the middle of my experiment that interrupted my video, so I'm continuing now. I've done 3 broadcasts on Radio C. And I had at least one chirp or two from it. I am doing a new frequency, 144.18. And so we'll see if So what I'm doing here is waiting for a response. I've already broadcast the message, and I've not yet got a response, but I'm trying a new, I've selected a random or somewhat random frequency that all 4 of these radios are set to. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, we can, Mark. We can.
So I'm going to do another broadcast. So I'm getting ready to do a second broadcast because I did not get a reply the first time. So I don't get any feedback. And so you'll see that I just simply use my phone with the audio file. And
we have a question too, Mark, from Tamara again. Have you ever received a compressed image or a text in response that you can decipher?
I have gotten a response with an encoded, that has an encoded frequency, I guess is the best way to put it. I'm going to pause this for a second so that you can hear me. But let me just bring that video up so you can, let's see here. It's the video analysis. It might be under Jimmy videos here. No.
And I was getting the start of curves and things like that, which was interesting. But
here it is.
We also looked into Morse code to see if they were sending us some kind of Morse code, but we couldn't figure that was the case.
Okay, so this video, I assume everybody can hear the video as well, right?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so this is a video put together by Jimmy Blanchett, my friend and colleague, who's been doing this for a couple of years now. And this is an analysis of a response that we receive through the radios. And this is very typical. So this is the nature of the response we get through the radio that receives, that sends the message initially. Now, in this area, you're seeing you actually see 3 radios. It's hard to see the other 2, but there are 3 radios here sitting next to each other. Only one is receiving a message, even though all 3 are set to the same frequency. And what you're seeing here in the spectrogram is the actual spectrogram of the received message in reply to the message he broadcasts. So what you're seeing here is that message, and you're hearing it. Now I'm going to pause it here. I want to point out a few things in the spectrogram. What you're hearing in that radio transmission is a particular tone. And that tone is made up primarily of the frequencies that are shown here in yellow. So these yellow bands represent the frequencies that you're hearing in that transmission. And Jimmy does a beautiful job here in just a moment, isolating them and analyzing them. So we're going to do that here as we listen. So these red arrows are showing you the bands of frequency that make up that sound broadcast. And he's isolated the frequencies. And what he's just showing you is that the digital root of all these frequencies either is 9 or 3. And so far, that's been the very nature of this. What we did as an experiment is created a synthetic version of that frequency, what we call the 8 tones. And I don't have my phone with me, or I could play it for you. But we've used that as a way to initiate contact. And that's also worked very well as a way. Instead of sending this encoded message in an audio file, we simply send what we call the 8 tones message, synthetic tones. And that's been successful. So I'm going to stop that here.
Yeah, Mark, unless you wanted to talk about something else before we go into the breakout rooms, I wanted to get your understanding of what is your plan for this year? What do you envision as the best way for us to go about advancing your research and your work?
Well, what I'm really interested in doing is creating a consortium of like-minded people who are truly interested in trying to create a movement for a global movement for initiating contact. And I think that the keys to that are doing it on a regular basis. I think using Zoom as a way to organize and hold these meetings such that we can meditate together or do any of these various techniques or modalities for initiating contact together while we're on Zoom. And then those of us that have access to good night vision cameras or good cell phone cameras with a good Zoom, or other optics that are hooked up to their cell phone, we can share these pictures or videos in real time as we're meeting. And I think that could carry a lot of weight and get more people excited about joining us. And this could grow into something organically that could, become global. And I believe personally that if we were to reach some kind of critical mass, I don't know what that number is, but I'm imagining it's, if not hundreds of thousands of people, it could be, a million or more people. We need to think about how we get 1 million people to participate in a Zoom meeting, but we'll cross that bridge when necessary. But for now, I think the goal is just to get a group of people who are really committed to this, and we can collect data in the form of videos while we're doing the Zoom calls, and we can then create little mini documentaries after each one of these meetings to share with people how we're doing and how this is working. And then using the radios in teaching people how they can use the radios themselves to initiate contact. We all are very familiar with the methods that Stephen Greer promotes, the CE5 protocol, which works, no question. That's how it started for me. But there are a lot of people that don't believe in meditation. They think it's woo-woo, or they just can't quite bring themselves to meditate in the way that the protocol requires. It takes some time, and often it requires doing it in a group, or people don't have the initiative to do it on their own. But if they were given a simple experimental protocol to try with radios, and they can record the response, kind of like a scientific experiment, and see how that progresses. I think that's another great hook, a way to get people who are more skeptical and don't believe in meditation or think it's just too far out for them to try. This is another way to get them engaged and to have a relationship with the intelligences speaking to them through the radios.
Yeah, amazing. So everybody, we are going to do some breakout groups. Again, the idea with the breakout groups is you can talk to the people in your group. So we're going to pair people in groups of 4. And the idea is that you each have 4 to 5 minutes to have the floor. So probably good to have a timekeeper in each of the groups so you can decide who's going to be the timekeeper. And then you just want to share an experience that you've had, or ask a question that you've had, or get some support, or share your joy or curiosity or questions. There's some incredible people on the call, so I'm sure beautiful things are going to happen. If you do not want, we're also going to be coming back on the call as a group, and you guys are going to be able to ask Mark some questions, any questions that you want. And then for anybody who wants, in the last half an hour, we're going to be recording people telling about their first contact experience. So I'm going to go ahead and set up the breakout groups right now. Just again, if you do not want to go into breakout groups, you can hang out with Mark and I in the main channel, and we'll just be talking. So you just don't accept the breakout groups, and you should end up back with us. And otherwise, I will be ending those in about 15 or 20 minutes to do some Q&A with Mark. So here we go.
What are we doing now?
If you want to go into the breakout groups, you can hit accept, and you can share your contact experience. I know, Greg, you have so many that we want to record. We're excited to do a more formal project with you on that.
I can do a very little one.
Yeah.
So it says join room 3.
Yeah, join it before it closes. Cool. So Joe, Lisa, Kathleen, are you having trouble joining, or would you like to stay with us? It looks like they're going to join. Oh, that's so cool.
And Kathleen wants to just stay with us, she said.
Okay, beautiful, Kathleen. So why don't you unmute yourself and see if you have a question for Mark? If you do, if not, that's okay too, because we have a lot to talk about. This is being recorded, so we can share it with the group later. Mark's going to talk about his first experience right now, but if you want to ask a question, you can before we do that.
Mark and Zinka, I gotta go. I just wanted to say bye.
We love you, Leroy.
Yeah, we love you,
Thanks for
brother.
joining us tonight.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. I think Leroy has heard your contact experience before, Mark.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Mark, we're recording now. We are going to be having people from all over the world. Like I said, famous people, non-famous people, all sorts of people talking about their first experience. So tell us about your first experience. Tell us about why you think your experience might have been a little bit different than other people's. And you can, if you don't want to talk about your first experience, you can talk about your best experience. We're going to do 2 categories, but you just decide there.
Okay. Well, my experience is unique based on the research I've done. You know, when I first had my experience in November of 2012, I really didn't know that much about the UFO and ET phenomenon. But what I've learned about my experience is how rare it is. In my case, I had a light being show up in my hotel room after I meditated doing the CE5 protocol that I was learning at this retreat in Braco Springs, California. This was something organized by Dr. Greer. So I saw a ship that night with other members of the group that I was meditating with out in the desert. And when I saw that ship, I knew it was otherworldly. It was not human made. And that inspired me later. When I was alone in my hotel room trying to fall asleep, I decided to try meditating and initiating contact by myself. And that worked with this light being standing at the end of my bed. And to make a long story short, he ended up, after, a greeting I gave him, approaching me, and then literally and slowly and very intentionally merging with my body. And I could feel this. It was like a tingly sensation as he was merging with me. And I was freaking out, but I forced myself to sit still because I did believe that I was witnessing a very benevolent being. It felt like a very good divine being. That's all I can say. I just knew it was a good energy. And I knew that what I was seeing and experiencing was so out of this world that I didn't want it to end. And I forced myself to stay calm and sit through it. And what that initiated was what was called a communion experience. And this, I believe, is the very same kind of communion experience and definition that Whitley Streiber speaks about in his book, Communion. And what I learned through this 13 days of communion with Tejbar, and what I mean by that is we were in this state of communion where in one physical body, you have 2 conscious beings. I mean, imagine that. And that you're able to communicate with that other being who's a higher dimensional being, and you get to ask any question you want. And every time I would ask a question, my mind was being blown, and it would lead to a follow-up question. And these questions were becoming more and more complex and the answers more and more involved. And what initially started out as a type of dialogue, telepathic dialogue in my brain, as if I'm kind of speaking to myself, although I know that the answers I'm receiving, it could not come from my own mind. I began getting downloads as answers, and that was an experience, just digesting information, volumes of information. to answer the questions I was asking. And that further led to what I call the third modality of learning from Tejbar, and that was by through literally finding myself in the shoes of another being, to live the final few moments of their life, to understand the question, or the answer, to get the answer to my question. And much of my questions had to do with the afterlife and reincarnation, because what I was quickly and early in my experience learning is that when we die, we are either reincarnated or we ascend to the next major stage of our conscious evolution. And that only happens, the ascension only happens when we graduate, when we come to some, we master some requirement that allows us to ascend. And he later told me that was mastering unconditional love. And so I was very curious about this. At the time of my experience, I was an atheist. But because I literally experienced the last few moments of a previous lifetime that he initiated, he kind of regressed me, because I had gone through, I had many questions about reincarnation. When he was telling me that's the way it worked, and I asked him, so you're telling me I was somebody else before I was Mark Sims in this life? And he says, yeah, you were somebody else. And then lo and behold, I ended up living a previous life, hundreds, actually more than almost 2,000 years ago. I experienced the last few moments of that life, which was quite an emotional experience, because I was being, in effect, executed for being a rebel, a spiritual rebel. A Christian evangelist is what I was. And I write about this in my book, but that's very unusual. So what I'm describing and sharing with you, this experience I had as a consequence of my contact experience, is quite unusual. And what was imparted on me through this dialogue and my questions to Tejbar left me with a new understanding of the way consciousness works and the way that we evolve through multiple lifetimes, and how that works, where it begins from and how it continues. And we're just, kind of babes. We still have other major stages to go. So he described what that's like, because he had gone through those stages. He was a higher dimensional being who had once been human on Earth some 3,000 years ago. And he explained when he died 3,000 years ago, he ascended and continued his life experience and his conscious evolution in what he called the Astral Realm, which he explained to me as a hyperdimensional space. It's a realm in which the physical realm of 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension of time is a subset. And he explained how there are these higher dimensions, and you become a higher dimensional being, that you have this energy that survives physical death, that gets reincarnated, and we refer to it typically as the soul, but he called it the astral body. And that astral body continues to evolve. And eventually, when we master unconditional love and we ascend, then we're born into this new higher dimensional body, that's the astral body. And it takes on the form, he said, of the Merkaba, the star Merkaba. And in fact, many of the objects that I have personally seen when I do a CE5 are orbs, these bright orbs, and people have now photographed and videoed these orbs, including myself, many times. And these orbs are very fast spinning Merkabas. These are higher dimensional beings that, at least some of them, I believe, were human at one time and now are astral beings, our ancestors. These are the ancestors that the indigenous speak of, and they take that form. And when they want to show themselves to us, they take that form of a sphere. But if you were to slow it down, it would appear as a star Merkaba. Because it's spinning so quickly, it takes on the shape of a sphere. So, I feel that that's, one of the unusual aspects is that I was given this very well-defined model of how we go through major stages of conscious evolution to get to be human consciousness, and that it doesn't stop here, that we continue this process. And that's pretty cool.
So we're almost bringing people back from the breakout groups, but so our mission is to learn unconditional love. That was the download you got. Any advice for us?
Well, I asked Tejbar, I said, what is unconditional love and how does one master it? And he told me that is for you to find out and discover on your own. And so I spent, since that time, a lot of research on this question: what is love? I think as human beings, we take for granted and gloss over and overuse the word love. We just use it very loosely, and in very many contexts. There's the love, what we call the agape love, the love for community and all people. That's one kind of love. And then there's passion, the kind of love we have for a lover. And then there's, love that we have for a child. These are very different types of love, but we use the same word to describe all of them. And through my own study of love, I've come to really appreciate and be careful of how I use the word. And I think we tend to use it very loosely. But what I believe I discovered was the true meaning in the terms of this ascension, this requirement of ascending, and that is love for oneself. That we are human beings, and by our very nature, we're imperfect. And we get very hard, we make mistakes invariably throughout our life, some minor, most of them minor, but sometimes we make some real doozies that hold us back, that we carry that guilt, or we're disappointed. We feel that we're not good people because we made some very bad mistake. But you have to forgive yourself, and we all make mistakes. And the point is that we're to learn from them and ultimately forgive ourselves so that we can move on. And by forgiving ourselves, we can then more easily forgive other people who have wronged us or wronged others, because that's the human way. We all have made mistakes, and that's how we move forward. I think that's how. And so, to kind of wrap it up, I don't believe it's possible to truly love another person until you love yourself unconditionally. And so that's what I've come to believe.
That's so beautiful, Mark. Before we let people back in, I just wanted to say that so Mark told me one of his hacks for that, and I haven't done it yet. I don't know if it's like courage or I don't know what it is, but it'd be good to do tonight, maybe even, right? So Mark suggested to take a piece of paper and write all the things down that you regretted in your life. And then walk up to the mirror and go through them and forgive yourself. And I think creating some kind of a ritual like that, because I'm going to have now a memory of that experience, you know what I mean? I'll probably cry, it's like letting that out, you know what I mean? Because I think you're right. Like if you don't know how to forgive yourself, how do you forgive someone else? And that's the name of the game right now, is just loving ourselves into the world we want to create. So I'm going to end the breakout rooms, and they will be over. So we are going to spend the next half an hour for anybody who wants to stay on to record their contact experience. But Mark, we're going to allow people to ask a few questions. So as everyone gets back in, I have a very, 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 very special surprise for you, because Mark just told an incredible story about his first contact. And it was mind-blowing, it was complex, it was nuanced. He even told us the secret to, enlightenment, of what the download that he got. So we're going to be sharing that on our YouTube channel. And again, we're going to be tagging it with my first contact. And if anybody has a YouTube and wants to publish to their YouTube, you can do that. And then we will basically suck everything in with that hashtag. So the idea is we're really, this is a network of people, it's a network of organizations, and we can tell a unified story, that's not on the news, right? So again, I just shared some links. We'd love if you followed our Facebook. We had kind of a snafu with it, so we can't do much until we have a certain number of followers. So if you're on Facebook, we'd love you to do that. And you can also check out the YouTube, where we'll be posting this Mark's incredible story they just told. So I'm going to give everybody a few minutes to ask any very burning questions we have for Mark. We have about 8 minutes before we're going to start asking you guys to share your experiences. But if anybody has a question for Mark, you can write it into the chat, or you can raise your hand and I'll pin you here. Does anybody have a question about Mark's plans to build this CE6 network in the next year? If we don't have any questions, Mark, I'd love to.
John has a question.
John has a question. Perfect.
I just wanted to say, about 2 weeks ago, I was, for some reason, I felt like I should go get some radios.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why, but I did. So I'm going to try what you said. And I'm very excited about that as another mode of communication. So because there must have been some connection there.
Wow, that's really amazing. Yeah, I would love to if you ever need any assistance, my email, right? You know how to contact me by email?
I'm sure I do. If not, I'll get it from Zinka, but.
Oh, okay. And I'd love to talk to you on the phone. Since you've taken the initiative and you sent that video to us, you're just the kind of guy I want to get to know better and to, work with. I really want to create a consortium, a group of like-minded people that we can work together. I don't want to lead it. I don't want to be like a Stephen Greer. I just want to be one of you guys. And help kickstart this thing, and then let others, share their stories and tell what they know. And I think that's the way this is meant to go.
Full agreement on that. I know Stephen Greer quite well, actually.
Yeah,
he's a very big influence for me, and really helped. He was an impetus as well for my contact.
Wow.
It's been such a pleasure to meet you, Mark, and everyone here. The energy is so lovely, and I'm enjoying it so much. So thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. We're so glad. Does anybody else have a question? If not, I can do one for Mark. It's a closing question.
Okay.
Okay, so Mark, kind of a choose which one you want to ask. Or answer. So one would be, why do you think they might want us to contact them? Or what do you think is what is going to be the secret to our success for doing CE6?
Well, I'll answer the first question. Why do the ETs, why are they eager for contact?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's clear to many of us that we've become an existential threat to ourselves. And it is because there's this hubris of the governments and the corporations and the military industrial complex that we are the pinnacle of intelligent beings in the universe, and we have a right to master nature. And it's there for the taking. And there's no reverence for life and no appreciation for, environmental rights and human rights. And so it's a real problem and represents a threat to our very existence. And by the ETs showing, presenting themselves if they can, and I believe that they will not push themselves on us. They're not going to initiate contact unless it's requested, because that's the right thing to do. It's, they know we will freak out if they start showing up in the sky. We would immediately think it's a takeover. That would be the easy narrative for the mass media to draw upon and to create that fear. But if we could create a human movement, a grassroots movement, and made it clear to everyone involved that we are the ones initiating contact, we know they're there and they're waiting for us simply to ask, and they're going to become more and more available or show themselves more commonly as this movement grows. And through the recordings on videos and social media promotion, I think this could become and quickly become a global movement. And we can control the narrative much more than than otherwise. I think it's really important that we, as a community, make some bold statements about our beliefs. That number one, that they are benevolent beings. They aren't here to take over our world. They're clearly way more advanced than we are, and they have the ability, if they wanted to take over the planet and use us as batteries or enslave us somehow, they would have done it already. So it's very easy to see that that's not their motive. So we know that they're benevolent, and that we are a community of peace-minded people. We want to bring peace to our planet. We recognize the importance of there being environmental and human rights for all people and for the earth and nature. And that's the only sustainable future that we have, is if we embrace that. And I think that the extraterrestrials can teach us a lot about all of that. And we're at an interesting moment of history where we very well may need their help to survive. We very well may have reached the tipping point where there's no way we can bring the earth back into balance, or this COVID thing can get under control without the loss of millions of lives, without some outside intervention. And what a great opportunity that represents if we do find ourselves up the proverbial Schitt's Creek without a paddle, that our family who's in waiting and just simply needs to be asked to show up would be willing to lend a hand. And there are many cases in the UFO field of ETs doing healing work on people, curing people of disease or broken bones or hearing loss. In the recent movie that Greer just came out with, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, there was an elderly gentleman who had a contact experience during one of Greer's retreats, and he asked them if they could fix his hearing, and they did. And he no longer needs use of his hearing aids. This is really amazing, and just shows their where they're coming from. These are good beings. They have no reason to want to control us. They want to help us.
Amazing message, Mark. That was so awesome. So grateful to have you here tonight. So grateful for the work that you're doing in the world so boldly and powerfully. I want to invite you guys. So there's a couple questions for you, Mark, in the chat. I want to invite you guys to our next session, which is going to be the fourth Friday of every month, which is going to be with Paul Hynek. And Paul Hynek was the son of J. Allen Hynek, who was the most famous UFO investigator for the US government, with Project Blue Book and things like that. So he grew up in that kind of a research family, and he's going to talk about his experiences. He's also been a consultant on tons of movies and things like that. He's a wonderful, loving man, and we look forward to having him, and we hope that you can join us. There's a sign up in the chat. So we have been, as we put together this network of networks of people wanting to have a peaceful narrative that's not fear-based, we've been working with Costa as part of ET Let's Talk. And he is working on a new movie, which is the People's Disclosure Project. And you'll find out more about that in the coming year as he puts that together. But we would love to invite anybody who wants to stay on right now to share their contact experience, their first contact or their best contact experience. We're looking for something, around 4 minutes or under. And we also, if there's anybody interested here in doing full-on archival work, where you're in a Zoom holding space for people like John and Greg to really give us the world a download on their incredible experiences that they've done over decades, we'd love to hear from you. So I've put our email in the chat, team@exometaverse.org. So if you're interested in helping people archive their stories, a lot easier to tell a story when there's an audience, and we'd love to have you participate. So is there anybody right now that would like to step on and just share, like maybe you saw a ship, or maybe you had a meditation and you felt you were getting telepathic messages, or maybe you had a dream where you met someone that seemed from another dimension. So again, it's not always just, oh, I saw a ship, but any experiences that you guys might want to have and share, we'd love to invite you guys to do that. So if you want to raise your hand, I will spotlight you if you would like to do that. Is anyone feeling? Oh, okay, cool. Kenny, let me get you here. So Kenny, before we record, or we are recording this, but would you be okay with us posting this on the YouTube? Yes, okay. So go ahead and unmute yourself. And you have about 4 minutes to tell us about your first contact experience. Go for it.
Sure. So 1994, after the comet had struck Jupiter, I was going through a hard time in my life, and just gave me the idea that someone might be out there enjoying the show. And yeah, at that time, it just, like, I had the inclination to just sit up one night and give meditation a try, to just focus. And I just listened to a lot of music, just favorite songs that would put me in that best place, what I know now, my highest vibration, and yeah, it just put me in that place where I was asking for help. It was a difficult time in my life, and really I just said, someone's out there. If you're out there, please help. And yeah, I wasn't expecting a response. So yeah, that was my story. That's my story.
Amazing. Kenny, can you tell us a little bit about your project, the CE5 Citizen Report?
Yes. So I wanted to give people the idea, the chance, the opportunity to document the journey, share their story, much like we're doing here, and then for us to potentially, for a better understanding from those individual stories, what is the common denominator, what helps facilitate contact, and then really just, yeah, to document the story over the time, over time. I'm my goal is to have open contact, and I would really love for us, the more people we get involved, the more comfortable and healthier we are as a society for that to happen. So yeah, that's all I have. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing, Kenny. And I want to let you guys know on our YouTube channel, for our kickoff event, we had a channeler. We wanted him to channel a message from the ETs to us, and what he channeled was so brilliant. He channeled how to make contact in your meditation and dreams. So it was like he was teaching us to fish. And I encourage you to check that out if you want to do a meditation where you can ask to make contact. It's really quite beautiful. So I know that there was someone else that had their hand up, and let me just see, is there anyone else that is interested in going next? Okay, Joan, let me get you here. And is it okay if we post this video? Oh, Joan, you're going to need to unmute yourself on the bottom left. There you go.
Yeah, I was doing my memoirs, and for that I needed a photo. And it was a photo that was made 50 years ago when I was leaving Holland as a single young woman. And when I have come to Canada, I have found that my path has been as if it was totally laid out for me. All I had to do was walk it. So now I'm making a copy of that photo with my iPad. And there I see this big orb over my head. And I didn't know what to think about orbs, but since Mark was also confirming this about orbs, I was saying, holy smoke. And I'm really wondering who is this orb?
That's really cool, Joan.
Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you, Joan. That's a real lovely story. I've also had friends, and I myself have had photos with the orbs that are clearly not lens flares. They're very odd anomalies. And looking back, I now know, like you, that this was a loved one or somebody, you might call a guide or an angel or a ancestor or loved one.
Yeah, that was quite a discovery. And I discovered that only maybe 4 or 5 months ago. Wow, this is great.
Do you have the photo?
Yeah, I do.
Is there any way you could share it with us?
I don't know how to do that.
Oh, okay.
But I can send it to your website or something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna put the email right here in the chat. So while someone else is talking, I will fish it out if you can email to team@exometaverse.org, and we can share it with the group.
Okay.
Is there anybody else that is interested in sharing tonight?
I can.
Okay, Solange,
Yes,
I'm going to put you on. And is it okay if we put this on our archives on YouTube?
Okay.
The video?
Sure.
Okay, just wanted to make sure we're getting the correct permissions from you. So you look beautiful, and we're ready to hear your story. Thank you for sharing.
I'm kind of new about, like 4 months ago with a friend, I created a small group, and we started to do what we can to make contact. And 16 months ago, I took a class of mediumship. So I'm making contact. And what is very intriguing for me, I do Zoom, we do reading, and also so many people like me seeing all kind of stuff in my reaction. I don't know the word. I'm sorry. English is my second language. If I was speaking French, it would be easier for me. I am from Quebec, okay? or Spanish. I'm even better in Spanish. Anyway, so I saw up to now like 7 different, whatever it's called, in my room. It started with like a flash here and then there, and sometimes it's foggy. But what intrigued me the most is like something, oftentimes it's in the window, and I saw something like about that side, and there was like darker, but what intrigued me, it was doing that in the window. And about 10 minutes later, we were going to finish the Zoom, like a moment later, and I saw the face of my friend, and me too, I saw it. It was further outside, but it was still there. So I'm very curious, and I'm still frustrated, that who are they? What do you want? Please talk to me. Because most people, they say they hear, but me, I realize with the mediumship and all that, I don't hear, I know, I just feel. And even my reading as a medium, because I don't do evidential mediumship, I do whatever it's called, some people say psychic or whatever. No, please. I'm allergic to a label. Sometimes it's past life. Sometimes once it was another dimension, the men say, yeah, it's my dog. So, whatever that is. What I realized, I've been doing more than 100 reading up to now. It improved, I think, some of whatever is here. Like you said, Mark, sometimes it can be a loved one and what guides, whatever that is. But my reading are so much easier now. I just flowing. I don't even need to go in whatever state. It just come.
Lovely.
This, I don't know what it was, like, what is it? Who were you? Why did you do that? Did anyone else have something like that?
When you do this, is that like an orb that's moving back and forth, or is it literally a finger that's waving? What can you describe it better?
I don't remember. I just remember it was right there. I don't know. I will have to ask my friend, because I was so surprised. Why is it like that? Because I was seeing it, and I don't know.
Okay. Well, it may have just been trying to get your attention by moving back and forth. What was it, an orb, or was it something?
It was different. It was smaller. It was in color, and there was like a black dot in the middle.
Okay. A black dot, you say?
Yeah, that's the impression I had.
Okay. Well, that would be an orb. That is a type of orb I've personally seen, and a good friend of mine has filmed one like that recently.
I just remember something. I was sharing with another friend on Zoom, because that I had created a group to make contact with ET. Just when I said ET in my window, there was a big orb like that right away.
Yeah.
Okay, and now I have goosebumps when I say that, and each time is my sign that it's true. Right away I said ET, bang. Okay.
Wow, that's really wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
And I want to thank you. So happy that I have found you. I just feel at home, and it's great.
Well, Zinka, do we have everyone's email address?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
This is exactly the kind of community we want to establish on a regular basis, get together and continue having these discussions, and growing the network, and making contact together. I really would love to see us getting together on a regular basis and meditating, and then sharing our experiences live on Zoom.
Yeah. I like to make joke. I was thinking, okay, when I have contact and they speak French to me, I will translate for you.
That's great. That's great. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, so just a reminder, next month So we're going to do this particular series as a daisy chain. So next month, instead of me interviewing Mark's going to now bring on someone that he really wants to share with the group, and he's going to interview them. We'll have the breakout sessions and the sharing. So it'll be the second Friday of next month. And then Mark is gonna also let you know, like he just said, about these actual workshops. These are gonna be like, let's make contact together live. Not all the interviews, not all the things, but just let's do this. So he's gonna walk people through the experience. People are gonna have experiences, they're gonna talk about it. So we're really excited about him to set some dates for that. And it'll be an ongoing monthly thing. So you'll have that as a community support. And I just wanted to let you know that Solange mentioned, she's like, sometimes I just know. So there's different types of extrasensory perception that you can have. She mentioned clairaudience, so where you can actually hear something. Clairsentience is when you feel something in your body, right? So she got chills, or something like that. That's also presence, right? And then there's claircognizance, which I have, which it's just a knowing. You just know. You just know. So there's all these different sort of different types of knowing that you can have. And when you ask for these experiences, and when you ask to make contacts, and when you invite it politely, you're gonna feel what your body is how your body is gonna let you know. So is there anybody else that wants to share this evening? Okay, great. Veronica, awesome. Veronica, is it okay that we post your video?
I leave it up to your discretion, because I cannot say that I have seen ET, but I just like to take this opportunity. You got my permission if it's of use. If I could just ask Mark, I have been receiving communication very clear. And just like the other lady, I'm also an immigrant single woman in Canada, 50 years. I have been, just like she said, basically following the instructions of higher intelligence, yeah? And I was not even religious, but I started to meditate at 1970. When I arrived, I took a transcendental meditation course, and then I did hatha yoga, and I never stopped. But for me, I have been having experiences with dolphins when I swim with them, or when I am in near proximity. And in 1987, when I was sailing to Santorini, I had most likely walk-in experience, because otherwise I could not explain it. And then later on, as I was gathering information, it all seemed to be as if that could be it. But it happened to me every time I swim with dolphins on a big island and spent hours under the water, yeah? So I just wanted to ask, is there any connection between extraterrestrials? Because there's, just like you said, so much love, so much guidance, so much clarity, so much beauty and protection, and beyond the ordinary ways and words.
Yeah, absolutely. It goes beyond our 5 physical senses. There's something extraordinary about these kind of experiences that are hard to put into words, because there's nothing to relate in the common vernacular to describe what it's like we're experiencing. But as you talk and struggle with relaying exactly what it is you have experienced, but yet it's so deep and such a loving feeling. I can relate, and that's what's so wonderful about meeting people like you, is I feel like I've found a member of my community that can get me, that doesn't think I'm weird or I'm crazy or I'm hallucinating. Because you've had your own experience and you can relate to mine. And I really think that's one of the most valuable aspects of this community that we're establishing together is that we can, we know this is real. We know it's a good thing. It's an important thing. And that if only we could share that experience or encourage others to be inquisitive and to find this experience for themselves, we know it can transform the world into a very beautiful, bright future. And I think this is what effectively ascension is all about, is
Yes.
discovering our commonality and this rich reality and experience that's much more than just the physical experience. So yeah, I absolutely understand what you're sharing, and as far as the connection to extraterrestrial intelligence, what becomes very difficult to explain to people is what, before my experience, I assumed there were only extraterrestrials from other star systems, that they were physical like us, they were just technically advanced, culturally advanced. They had interstellar technology that allowed them to get from point A to point B over vast distances very quickly. And that's how they were coming to us. They were just much more advanced, but it's much more complex than that. The fact is that while that is true, I do believe that there are advanced physical ETs with spaceships that can travel vast distances. There are also extra dimensionals or ultra dimensional beings that are not physical beings. They have the ability to appear to us in the physical, like Tejbar did, but when he appeared, it was clear he was not physical. He was a light being. I could see, sparkly lights, and he was glowing in the dark, and there were parts of his body that were semi-transparent. So he looked more like a ghost or a hologram. If I hadn't prepared myself, he would have really scared me if I wasn't ready and kind of open to whatever was going to happen at that moment. And that was the beauty of my experience, that I did know that, I was expecting a physical ET at the most to show up. But when it was a light being, I'd heard references to light beings before, so it didn't freak me out. But then when he walked into me and I felt that merging of his body with me, that was freaky. But now I can share that experience, and hopefully others will have the the ability to stay calm, because the outcome of that experience was so beautiful and so uplifting. And, I can't recommend it highly enough to other people. So that's my answer about the ET. And it could very well be our mother or our grandmother who has passed on. That could be, one of these orbs that's visiting us. And are they an extraterrestrial? It depends. If they've gone off to Alpha Centauri and then back, does that make them an extraterrestrial? I don't know. But the point is that they're extra or ultra dimensional beings, and they are able to watch us, and they care about us, and they can
Answer us.
They can enter you, absolutely,
And answer.
And answer and put ideas into your head. I think that's a possibility. Sometimes you hear about people, all of a sudden getting an epiphany. That might be a loved one who's trying to answer a question for you, or set you on a path, or on a, get you to think about something that could be very helpful for you at that moment.
Thank you.
Awesome, Veronica. Yeah, and I would encourage you to really, if you're interested, to really look into dolphins, because they're one of the most intelligent species on the planet. They work with frequencies. There's been fascinating research with us being able to decode some of what they're saying and stuff. So it's kind of mirroring our experiences now. It's like, how do we communicate across species and across things? So it's quite beautiful. So we just have time for one more story tonight, one more experience. Karen, I see your hand, so I'm gonna pick you. I would like to ask you, is it okay if we post your video?
Again, sure, if it's relevant.
Okay, great. Okay, go for it.
So, okay, so you said dolphins, so I had to jump in because in 1994, I had a near-death experience. And when I came back into my body, everything changed. I grew up around the water. I grew up sailing. I grew up just, you know, feeling comfortable on boats. And so when I recovered from my near death, I followed instructions, you know, my guidance to go where I needed to go. And I had an inner experience of two dolphins showing up, and "thou art that" is the message I received. And I knew that my main priority in my life had changed to, instead of running my business, which was called Dolphin Press, it was to go and be with dolphins in the wild. And that's what I did. And I connected with a pod down in the Caribbean. And then they became my family. And I spent like 16 years, you know, going to be with them every summer. And, you know, the very first time I got in the water with the alpha, I had downloads, you know, so they are amazing, loving beings. I mean, they are like the aliens on this planet, you know, and I feel like in a way they prepared me for, you know, I was like bringing people to be with them as the aliens, and it prepared me for whatever I'm moving into now, which is being in contact with other beings. And I shared some of that in the little breakout group that I'm in. I feel like we're having contact all the time. The veils are really thin. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And we're learning how to set the vibration so we can be in contact at will. You know, they really want to be connecting, and they have all kinds of things that they're sharing. You know, a lot of times it comes in a giant download and you go, whoa, you know, and it takes you a while to unpack everything. You know, so anyway, I just think we're in a very exciting, beautiful time. And I love connecting with this group. This is like my passion.
Oh, thank you so much. Your share was so beautiful, so amazing.
Totally
yeah. So some people say it's like a radio frequency that you just have to learn how to tune in. And once you really learn, then you don't have to go through all the steps. You're just connected.
Exactly I would listen to their sounds. I would lie at night and just listen to their chirping and their sounds until I started to hear them in my head. And I knew, you know, where to go. I went to Hawaii and they showed right up on, you know, came right to the beach. I mean, it's setting the dial to a particular frequency, and all of a sudden it starts to come in. At least that's been my experience.
Wow, amazing.
Where do you live? Do you live in California or Hawaii?
I do. I live in the North Bay in California right now.
Oh, okay, wonderful.
So
thank you for sharing.
Yeah. So I like to be on time and everything like that. So I do want to close, but Joe is really requesting that we hear from Karena. So we're going to honor his request for the final little moment here. So Karena, I'm going to add you in before we close. And do we have permission to post your video?
I'd prefer not this time.
That's fine. That's fine. Just so we know.
Okay.
I'm going to pause.
That's just the beginning though.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Karena. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I would like to leave everyone with an image of this meditation question about contact. And this is a story relayed to me by Tejbar over this 13-day period that we were in communion. He said, Mark, think of yourself as a tadpole and I'm a frog. You are going to be a frog one day, but you're not right now. Your world is the pond. You're in the pond. You look around, you think everything, that the pond is the whole world, the whole universe, but there's this whole other world above the pond in which there are birds and trees. And here I am, a frog, and I breathe the air, and you don't even know what air is. And it's hard for me to relay to you what I'm experiencing because there are no words for me to convey. And it was part of my learning from him about the nature of and difficulty of learning from a higher dimensional being about what their experience is like. But here's a great analogy. He says, when we meditate in the pond, we are being still. And it's like the top of the pond becomes still and like glass, perfectly smooth. And now you can see through the pond and into a new world. You can then begin to see the tree that's hanging over the pond. And you might be able to see me, the frog sitting on a rock on the bank of the pond. And but you have to still the mind. And that's the analogy he gave me. Right. So I hope that's helpful to those of you who, need a model or some analogy to help relate why meditation is a gateway for contact.
And I believe now that they are us. I believe that I'm just communicating with a higher dimensional aspect of myself. And it is our family, it's us. It's not them, it's us.
Absolutely, absolutely. And here is the bottom line, I believe in it, is that what they get out of contact for us is the physical experience. They want the communion experience with us. Tejbar said, Mark, you do not know how good you have it being a physical being in the physical realm. And now that I can be communing with you and through your body, through your eyes, through your ears, through your mouth, I can taste food, and it enriches both of our experiences together. And that 13-day experience was so amazing because I was feeling his emotional response to the physical senses through his, when we tasted food, it was like two of us tasting the same food. And all of a sudden, something that was kind of regular and mundane to me was suddenly much more tasteful because he was enjoying it so much. And through his enjoyment, I was feeling that. And that's, one of the beauties of communing. And I believe the communion experience is part of this ascension and part of our collective evolution.
The other thing that you kept saying during the harmonic convergence is that people just thought you were crazy.
Yeah.
And that's why I think this is so important now, because we all know now we're not crazy. When it first started happening to us, other people projected their fear on us, but now we're communicating, go, wait. That's really happening. And that really is the truth. And if more and more people are going to start waking up, they're not going to know what the crud is going on.
That's right.
And it is a magical, I think this is why we are here right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Amen.
I just included a photo for everyone, but I took a photo while I was underneath the water with my camera. And it just caught the image perfectly, whereas it looks like you're looking at the universe. I had to include that for you all.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful. Thank you, Kenny. That's really beautiful.
Yes,
that's
sir.
a great picture.
Well, thank you everybody for coming out tonight for our first session. We loved having all of your warmth and love and knowledge and insight. Really awesome. So look out in your email for a message from Mark of when he's going to do his contact kind of workshop experience. And he will also be back with us next month on the second Tuesday for the free session, and he'll be interviewing someone, and we'll be doing the same thing. And we'll also be with Paul Hynek in 2 weeks. So we hope to see you then. Thanks. Namaste, you guys. Have a great
Thank you, everyone. It was just lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zinka.
Have a great night.
Thank you, Zika.
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Night, everyone. Much love.
Yeah.
Great pleasure. Thank you.